In August 2017, Puget Sound in Washington State, United States. A rare storm with a speed exceeding 110 kilometers per hour. With its destructive power, it completely changed the ecological fate of this sea area. In this extreme weather event, which meteorologists refer to as once in 50 years, the surging seawater is as fierce as a giant hammer, colliding with the offshore fish farms that cost millions of dollars to build along the coastline. In a storm that lasted for hours, the sturdy steel cage structure emits a suffocating moan. The mooring ropes broke one after another under immense tension. When dawn finally arrived, a chaotic underwater battlefield was presented before people's eyes. And the most shocking thing in this battle is, more than 260,000 farmed Atlantic salmon have quietly disappeared into the vast ocean. These escaping creatures didn't make any sound, but they were like a well-trained special forces unit. Quietly infiltrated the ecosystem of the Pacific Ocean. From an ecological perspective, this is far from a simple production safety accident. But it was the prelude to a major ecological event that was jointly defined by ecologists and economists in later generations as a silent invasion. Preliminary assessments indicate that the potential cost of the chain reaction that this invasion could trigger could reach an astonishing $10 billion. More profoundly, this event is like a prism, clearly reflecting the process of human pursuit of food security and economic benefits. The dangerous collision between natural ecological boundaries and the profound crisis hidden behind modern industrial farming models. To fully understand the essence of this ecological crisis, we first need to have a comprehensive understanding of the protagonist of this invasion, the Atlantic salmon, Salmo sala. This fish, known as the ocean red gold, is not only a superstar in global aquaculture trade. It is also a typical representative of human transformation of nature and pursuit of food production efficiency. In the globalized seafood trading system, Atlantic salmon holds a pivotal position. From traditional smoking techniques in Norwegian fjords to exquisite cuisine in high-end North American restaurants. Moving on to the fashionable plates in Asian sushi restaurants, their delicious orange meat and rich nutritional value. Supporting a massive industry spanning across continents with an annual output value exceeding tens of billions of dollars. According to statistics, the global annual production of farmed Atlantic salmon has exceeded 2.5 million tons. Norway, Chile, Canada, and Scotland are the main producing countries. A complex global supply chain network has been formed to meet the continuously growing market demand. The industrialized offshore net cage aquaculture model has been widely adopted and continuously optimized since the 1960s. The characteristic of this mode is in protected bays or fjords. Deploy giant net cages with a diameter of up to 50 meters and a depth of up to 30 meters. Each cage can accommodate tens of thousands of salmon. Through precise feeding systems, oxygen supply, and disease monitoring, these ocean ranches have achieved unprecedented production efficiency. However, behind this high efficiency is the deep transformation of the biological characteristics of salmon. At the genetic level, modern farmed salmon have undergone strict artificial selection. Breeding experts select through multiple generations of breeding. Emphasis has been placed on strengthening the economic traits of rapid weight gain and high feed conversion rate. Data shows that the growth rate of modern farmed salmon is more than twice as fast as its wild counterparts. It can reach market specifications within 12 to 18 months, while wild salmon takes 3 to 4 years. At the same time, there are essential traits for wild survival, including precise navigation ability, keen hunting instinct, and efficient strategies for avoiding natural enemies. And the instinct to search for spawning grounds in complex river systems. They have significantly degraded during the process of domestication from generation to generation. These genetically optimized ocean residents are essentially products specially designed for the dining table. Their physiological characteristics and behavioral patterns have been deeply adapted to the breeding environment. When these creatures that have lost their wild instincts accidentally enter open waters, the special supply attribute they carry will quickly transform into multiple threats to the local ecosystem. From an ecological perspective, they are not wanderers returning to nature, but rather intruders carrying Trojan horses, may cause incalculable impacts on the native ecosystem. When 260000 escaped salmon flooded into Phuket Bay like a flood. They have actually cast 3 deadly ecological ropes in this ecologically sensitive area. Each one may cause profound and lasting damage to the local ecosystem. The first noose, resource plunder and ecological niche occupation. In ecology, niche competition is a key factor determining the survival of species. Although the wild survival skills of these escaped salmon are relatively low, but their large population size and strong feeding behavior cultivated in aquaculture environments make it a resource predator in the ecosystem. They highly overlap in diet with local Pacific salmon, including king salmon, silver salmon, red salmon, and multiple other species. The main food sources are krill, herring larvae, and other planktonic animals. Research shows that an adult Atlantic salmon needs to consume 2 to 3% of its body weight in food per day. According to this calculation, 260,000 escaped salmon will consume about 40 to 60 tons of plankton and small fish every day. In spring, when wild salmon fry have just entered the sea and need a large amount of food reserves to adapt to the marine environment. This kind of resource competition is particularly deadly. Fisheries research from the University of Alaska shows that during times of food scarcity, the invasion of farmed salmon may lead to a 30% decrease in the survival rate of wild juvenile fish. This implicit competition for resources may not be as intuitive as the predatory relationship, but it can produce slow and fatal cumulative effects at the population level. Second noose, Trojan horse of pathogens. This may be the most alarming immediate threat to marine ecologists. High-density aquaculture environment is like a pressure cooker for pathogen evolution. This provides ideal conditions for the spread of diseases such as sea lice, infectious salmon anemia virus, and salmon rickettsia. In a controlled cage environment, these diseases can still be controlled to a certain extent through medication and management measures. However, once they enter the open ocean environment, these escaping schools of fish become mobile bioweapons depots. Taking sea lice as an example, these tiny parasites can rapidly reproduce in aquaculture environments. The number of sea lice in a single cage can reach millions. When escaped salmon-carrying sea lice come into contact with wild populations, these parasites can attach to the surface of wild fish, causing tissue damage, osmotic regulation disorders, and secondary infections. Research in British Columbia, Canada confirms sea lice infection can increase the mortality rate of certain wild salmon populations to over 90%. What is even more worrying is that antibiotics widely used in farms may screen out drug-resistant strains. Once these superbugs enter the natural environment, the consequences will be unimaginable. The third news, genetic pollution, the chronic poison of ecology. This is the most covert and irreversible threat. Although Atlantic salmon and Pacific salmon belong to different genera, the success rate of natural hybridization is relatively low. But the possibility of evolution has never been zero. Under specific environmental pressures, especially when wild populations are scarce, the possibility of interspecific hybridization will significantly increase. What is even more worrying is the potential risk of gene infiltration. If these escaped farmed fish meet and crossbreed with the remaining wild Atlantic salmon populations on the east coast of North America, the precious wild gene pool refined by thousands of years of natural selection will be contaminated by domesticated genes. This genetic mixture will permanently alter the genetic structure of wild populations, weakening their adaptability to local environmental conditions and reducing genetic diversity, thus endangering the long-term evolutionary potential of the species. Norwegian research shows that only a small amount of genetic infiltration from farmed fish populations is needed. It is enough to significantly alter the genetic characteristics of wild populations within several generations. This genetic change is like a chronic poison to the ecosystem. Its impact may not fully manifest for decades, but once it occurs, it is almost irreparable. The shock wave of ecological crisis is never limited to the natural environment. The salmon escape incident quickly demonstrated its powerful economic destructive power. Like a pair of toppled dominoes, the shock wave starts from the coastline of Washington state, quickly spread to every corner of the global seafood market. The top priority is the traditional fishing industry on the west coast of North America. In the weeks following the incident, local fishermen experienced a dramatic transition from surprise to panic. Commercial fishermen in Washington state have discovered that their fishing nets are unprecedentedly filled with Atlantic salmon. These unexpected gains were initially seen as heavenly windfall. However, this joy was fleeting. The market was quickly flooded by these cheap imported salmon, causing a cliff-like drop in the price of locally valuable wild Pacific salmon. Data shows that within 3 months after the incident, wholesale prices of wild silver salmon in some areas fell by more than 40%. Even more profound is the shaking of consumer confidence. Seafood buyers are beginning to develop a strong sense of distrust towards these sudden and unknown foreign fish. This trust crisis not only affects the sales of escaped salmon themselves, but also impacts the entire wild salmon industry. The high-quality and sustainable brand image of wild salmon on the West Coast, which has been established for decades, has been seriously questioned. As the shock wave continues to propagate, downstream industries such as processing, packaging, and exports are successively affected. In response to this crisis, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and the Department of Agriculture have had to strengthen their inspection and traceability requirements for all salmon products. These strengthened regulatory measures have led to a significant increase in operating costs for processing enterprises and a significant slowdown in production processes. Some international markets have strict requirements for product traceability and sustainability. Especially the European Union and Japan have even suspended salmon trade contracts from some areas of Washington state. When all direct and indirect losses are comprehensively evaluated, the figures presented are shocking. Experts estimate that the total cost of this incident could reach up to $10 billion. This number not only includes direct economic costs such as damage to breeding facilities, emergency response, and short-term market losses. It also includes hidden costs that are difficult to quantify, such as long-term ecological restoration, biodiversity conservation, and industrial reputation reconstruction. More importantly, this incident caused a disruption in the seafood supply chain. Affects the entire industry chain from feed suppliers to retail terminals. Exposing the astonishing fragility of the global seafood industry network. This series of economic shocks clearly indicates that in the modern globalized economic system, a local ecological safety accident is no longer an isolated event. It may generate far beyond expected economic consequences through complex supply chains and market confidence mechanisms, even shaking the foundation of the entire industry. The salmon escape incident in Washington state is not an isolated case. It is just a concentrated manifestation of systemic risks in global industrialized aquaculture. When we expand our horizons to a global scale, similar risks are quietly accumulating in breeding hotspots around the world. In the Patagonia region of Chile, frequent incidents of escaped salmon farming continue to threaten the ecological integrity of one of the world's most primitive marine ecosystems. In 2016, a red tide disaster in the region resulted in the death of approximately 27 million farmed salmon. At the same time, a large number of live fish escaped. These escaped fish schools compete with local fish for habitat and food resources. May permanently alter the species composition and food web structure of the local ecosystem. Norway, as the world's largest producer of farmed salmon, has been plagued by sea lice for a long time. These parasites overflowing from farms have become invisible killers of wild Atlantic salmon and trout populations. Research shows that in some fjord areas severely affected by aquaculture farms, the intensity of sea lice infection in wild salmon juveniles is sufficient to cause their mortality rate to approach 100%. Despite the Norwegian government and businesses investing heavily in research and development solutions, innovative methods such as using laser pest control equipment and cleaning fish have been employed, but the problem is far from being fundamentally solved. The salmon farming industry in Scotland faces different challenges. Local research has found that escaped farmed salmon crossbreed with endangered wild Atlantic salmon, posing a threat to the genetic purity of wild populations. Genetic analysis shows that up to 35% of wild salmon in certain rivers actually have a lineage of farmed fish. This genetic mixture is quietly altering the biological characteristics of wild populations, potentially weakening their adaptability to the local environment. Behind these specific cases is a more macro threat, the accelerating effect of climate change. Two key changes caused by global climate change are exacerbating the risks in the livestock industry. One is the increasingly frequent and intense extreme weather events. Stronger storms and larger waves constantly challenge the engineering limits of aquaculture facilities. Increased the probability of large-scale escape events. The second is the continuous rise in seawater temperature and the trend of acidification. These changes not only directly affect the physiological health and disease resistance of salmon. It may also alter the distribution range and toxicity of pathogens, creating more favorable environmental conditions for disease transmission. These global risk events collectively reveal a harsh reality. Concentrate a large number of non-native species in ecologically sensitive coastal areas for breeding. Essentially, it is a Russian roulette wheel with the ecosystem. Every large-scale escape event is a heavy blow to the local ecosystem. And climate change is loading more bullets into this revolver. Faced with such severe challenges, simple crisis response is no longer sufficient to solve the problem. We need to make profound innovations in technology, management, and cognition. Rebuilding the balance between human aquaculture activities and natural ecosystems. Technological innovation, paradigm shift from sea to land. The most revolutionary solution comes from the rapid development of land-based recirculating aquaculture systems. These systems completely relocate aquaculture activities to enclosed facilities on land. Through multi-layer filtration, biological treatment, and temperature control. Realize the recycling of water resources and centralized treatment of waste. Although the construction and operation costs of such systems are significantly higher than traditional cage aquaculture, about 30 to 50% higher, they can fundamentally eliminate the risks of fish escape and disease transmission, and achieve zero wastewater discharge. In recent years, with the advancement of technology and the emergence of economies of scale, the cost of land-based aquaculture is rapidly decreasing. Large land-based salmon farming projects have successfully achieved commercial operation in Denmark, the United States, and Canada, proving the feasibility of this path. In addition to land-based aquaculture, other technological innovations are also being promoted simultaneously. This includes developing offshore aquaculture platforms that can withstand stronger winds and waves, using new materials and intelligent monitoring systems to monitor the integrity of net cages in real time, and cultivating triploid, sterile, aquaculture fish populations through genetic technology. Especially with triploid technology, although there is still controversy, if we can ensure a 100% infertility rate, it will effectively cut off the possibility of gene exchange between escaped fish populations and wild populations. Significantly reduce the risk of genetic contamination. Regulatory framework, from passive response to active prevention. A strong regulatory system is the institutional guarantee for ensuring the sustainable development of industries. This requires collaboration and cooperation among governments and international organizations to establish a more stringent standard system. Key measures should include mandatory storm-resistant design standards, worst-case scenario-based escape emergency plans, a traceability system for the entire industry chain, and regular independent third-party audits. It is particularly important to strictly implement the polluter pays principle. This means that breeding enterprises must bear full financial responsibility for all ecological and economic losses caused by them. including establishing sufficient financial guarantees or purchasing corresponding environmental liability insurance. This economic leverage will encourage companies to place environmental safety at the core of their decision-making. Proactively invest in risk prevention measures rather than post-remediation. Global cognition and consumer choice, market-driven change. In this transformation, consumer choices play a crucial role. With the increasing public awareness of the environment, the market is becoming a powerful force driving industrial transformation. Consumers can support businesses that adopt more responsible production methods by choosing products that have obtained authoritative sustainable certifications, such as ASC certification from the Aquaculture Management Committee. Meanwhile, comprehensive information disclosure and transparent supply chain are also crucial. Breeding enterprises should disclose information such as their breeding location, density, escape records, disease prevention and control, and drug use, so that consumers can make choices based on sufficient information. This transparency not only helps establish market trust, but also provides valuable data for scientific research. Promote continuous improvement throughout the industry. Nowadays, the vast Pacific Ocean has already swallowed up the traces of 260,000 escaped salmon. But the ripples caused by this silent invasion continue to spread. What it leaves us is not just an economic account that needs to be settled. It is also a series of profound propositions about how humans and nature coexist. Can we find a true balance between the convenience of modern life and the integrity of the ecosystem? Is our complex global industrial civilization thriving on dangerous practices that erode the foundation of nature? This crisis, priced at $10 billion, is an isolated event that can be remedied. Or does it foreshadow a rehearsal for a larger-scale environmental collapse in the future? The answers to these questions largely depend on how we understand the meaning of boundaries. Not only a geographical boundary, but also a safe boundary for human intervention in nature. The deep ecological ideas proposed by Norwegian philosopher Arne Næss remind us. Humans are not isolated from natural systems, but an inseparable part of them. Our economic activities must respect the carrying capacity and inherent laws of the ecosystem. On a broader level, the salmon escape event reflects a core dilemma of the Anthropocene era. How to meet the needs of 8 billion people worldwide without overdrawing the ecosystem we rely on for survival. This challenge requires us to go beyond traditional solutions and seek innovative paths from an interdisciplinary perspective. Integrating ecological wisdom with technological innovation, and unifying economic incentives with ethical considerations. Connect local practices with a global perspective. Nature continues to remain silent, but through this invasion event, it has raised the most profound question to us. The wisdom, conscience, and creativity of humanity will continue in this dialogue with the boundaries of nature. Accept the test of history. Our choices and actions today. Not only does it determine the fate of salmon, but it also shapes the future of our shared planet.